Hello and welcome to another America's What's Cooking show here on LinkedIn Live. And usually we are here on Thursday, every Thursday. Yes, today we'll be traveling tomorrow. So we've made a little bit of an adjustment to our schedule. Hope you don't mind. And I hope we have many of our faithful listeners in the audience. Please feel free, as always, to give us a shout out, ask questions. And without further ado, welcome, Catrina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being so flexible with this. I know I don't mean for anybody to think that tomorrow's Friday, having this move to Wednesday. So very much appreciate it.
We don't want to be responsible for stealing those days away from people and getting them into a Friday mood. Before we get started, could you just quickly let us know a little bit about yourself as well as Event Mobi, the organization you are with? And you are, if I'm seeing your shirt right, you are in Italy at the moment on vacation. So thank you for joining us from your vacation.
Yes, my newly tan skin. I feel right at home with all the other Italians looking super tan at the beach. So loving it. But yes, so hi. So I'm Catrina. I'm Event Mobi's marketing events planner. So basically what that means is that I plan virtual events all day long, essentially. My background actually is in filmmaking, which the crossover between events and filmmaking for me is like kind of crazy. When I moved over to events, I was like, oh, this is like everything I've done over here, now just packaged in a different way, type of thing. If that kind of makes sense, if anybody has any filmmaking experience that's watching. So Event Mobi, what do we do though? Obviously we plan events of sorts, but we are a SaaS company, I guess, software as a service. We make event apps and virtual event platforms for your events. So if you're hosting something in person and you're like, oh, I need an in-person like mobile event app, you would come to us. If you're like, oh, hey, I'm doing a virtual event, I need an event website and all that fun stuff, you would come to us. If you're like, I need registration too, we got you. If you're like, hey, we're doing hybrid events, we can do that too. And for the people that might be a little intimidated by tech still, we offer services to help you set up your event apps, make sure everything runs smoothly. And if you need virtual producers to help you with your virtual events too, we have services that can help you kind of run a very seamless, professional, chef's kiss type of event.
Excellent. I didn't know about your former life in filmmaking, and that comes in very handy because I'm sure we all felt very much in a totally different space and world in the past few years. As you said, Event Mobi is all about tech for events. Anything you would like to share on your learnings over the past few years?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Yeah. And it's funny that the filmmaking, it totally lends itself to the virtual event side of events that we had to be like really plunged into over the past couple of years. Like if you ever need advice on a good flow for your event or how to make it more engaging, ask somebody who's in film. 110%, they will have great advice from you. Just saying. But I really do think to answer your question, there's a few things, right? So I think over the past 2 years, whether or not you planned virtual events, it doesn't matter because everybody else was attending them. And the world has like kind of changed because of it. I think attendee expectations have changed as well in terms of virtual events. A talking head is great, but what other engagements activities are you doing? Are you putting out there for your audience to make them want to come to your events? Because I'm sure you've seen that there's an endless amount of virtual events to attend, and if it's just the same old thing, you're not pulling in the attention that you want to pull in. You want to make people stay for your event, not just for the first 5 minutes and then cut out. And I think I've also seen this kind of rush to go back to in-person. But actually what we've seen from our own clients, yes, some of are going back to in-person, but some are really keeping that virtual component because, you and I, we met at IMEX Frankfurt. We know what it's like to travel internationally again. And sometimes it's a great experience and sometimes it's not. So it's still like a bunch of reasons why somebody might not want to go to your in-person event. So what I've seen now is the reasons can be endless. And so to offer these digital options, whether it's in an event form or taking your event content and making it into a podcast episode or a blog post, etc., people want to consume things differently. And I think giving people options is a great thing. Options are better than no options.
Absolutely. And I guess you would agree that time has become the biggest commodity we have, and we are really fighting all for time. And here is our lovely Sina, who has been bringing us together in Frankfurt. So that's thanks to Sina, we are having Catrina today on our show. And she's commenting that she can really say that you have experience in filmmaking because your Event Mobi webinar series are all a great production. Thank you, Sina. And this is coming from a pro in doing online event engagement. So that's a great feedback from Sina. Thank you. Anything you would like to share with our audience today, which really worked well?
What worked well? I think, okay, if I'm talking about Event Mobi, where I work for, I think what really worked well for Event Mobi was the pivot, because in 2010, that's when Event Mobi was born, and we started selling event apps. And then in 2019, like the rest of it, I feel like when I talk about COVID and the pandemic now, it's just so everywhere. It's almost like it's lost meaning, but it hasn't lost meaning because we talk about it so much, if that makes sense. Anyways, so in 2019 hit, obviously, no more in-person events. So what are you going to do? And I think what Event Mobi did really well, and this is from stories I've heard because I wasn't with the company at the time, but they took time to understand what goes into a virtual event. So a large portion of what you see for our virtual event platforms was designed literally by Event Mobi employees at the time. What they would do is call it MobiCon, and once a week, everybody would have to put together a virtual event that the company would sit in on, and they would tweak. We should probably have the font for the title of the session bigger. Like when I go back and I reread some of the stuff in the Slack channels that are now archived, it's kind of cool to see that there was a company that was just like, okay, we have to figure this out now. We're not just going to pack up shop here. And so I think what worked really well for Event Mobi is taking that time to do that research, and like not just like researching, going online to research, but actual like the human research, and let's do this together and kind of figure it out. So I think that's the part that worked well.
And here Sina is commenting again that we, as hybrid and online event organizers, can learn so much from the TV world and have implemented aspects from making events more engaging. I guess you would agree that was probably one of the biggest silver linings or benefits of COVID that really transitioned.
And actually, so I'll add on to my answer as well in terms of, I guess, what worked well for me in my events anyways, is that point that Sina's making about you can learn so much from TV, the TV series, because what were we all doing during COVID? If you didn't have a Netflix account or were stealing it from somebody else, you're lying. You know what I mean? If you didn't consume any other streaming kind of content, whether it was like Netflix, Hulu, etc., like we all were. So like, what were some of those things that would keep you attached to watching those things? Obviously, sometimes it's hard to make a dry piece of content really exciting in terms of a Netflix series. Not all of us have the budget. But when you think of certain things, so what worked well anyways for one of the series that I helped produce for Event Mobi was called the Association Show. So what we would do, I had visuals were super important to me. I kind of wanted it to look like a retro talk show. So I was talking to our graphic designers. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they designed something so perfect, and I absolutely loved it. And then we were looking at like even the structure of the event itself. So we had our videographer, Francisco, make us this like cool little intro that had like kitschy kind of talk show music behind it. And it gave you the lineup of what you were like, who you're going to listen to during that event. And then at the end, same thing, like a little outro. And then for the second session of that series, we would do a previously on Association Show, where we kind of like recapped in 30 seconds what we kind of learned, and then went into that intro. So it's all things that we're used to seeing, that we're comfortable seeing. And I think when we're comfortable seeing something, then we're like, okay, I'm being taken care of here. All right, I can watch. And you have my attention.
piggybacking on something that really works well. I think that's probably one of the big takeaways for us as event producers, I guess.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always all smooth sailing. And event tech, I know there was a lot of resistance in the past. We had to adopt to it. And tech was always the thing which didn't work for our in-person events. Anything that didn't work so well within especially those first few months?
Let's see, what didn't work well? I think you're kind of right. There was this like resistance to tech. It was like, okay, because right at the beginning of the pandemic, we all heard 2 weeks, we'll be out of this. 2 weeks, that's it, right? And then we checked our watch after a little bit. Okay, it's not going back. So I think there was maybe what didn't work so well was, ironically, I guess the planning of it all, not just on like a planner's position, but just like, hey, we didn't plan for this. We didn't plan for, still being in this like 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, 2 years down the road. So I think there was that resistance to learning tech because maybe people thought they were going to get back to in-person way sooner than we actually all did. And I think if you didn't put some time into learning anything about event tech in the last 2 years, start doing it now. Like it's never too late. And at this point, there's so much content out there for anybody to go and research, whether that's on YouTube or literally our own like eventmobi.com/resources page has like a whole bunch of stuff for you where you can learn. And there's like a simple Google search. But I think I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but if you didn't learn about event tech during the last 2 years, it's not too late. Start doing it now because like I was saying earlier, there's a whole bunch of reasons why somebody might not go back to in-person. And we're all talking about like inflation as well, making it a bit harder to go back to in-person with budgets and et cetera. So, I mean, that's the part I think that maybe didn't work so well for some people.
And also that part you just mentioned about planning. Even if you haven't planned until now, it's not too late to plan still because you want to be prepared. You don't want to lose your other audiences, even if you do plan your events in person. So you want to capitalize on what you have gained.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if you didn't, let's say, Senya looks frozen, or am I frozen?
No. It was me. My moving internet.
No, I was just going to add on to what you were saying about. I lost my train of thought now.
That we can still plan, right? And don't want to lose audiences.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Because during like the 2 years of COVID, we all gained like some form of online audience, whether we realized it or not. Like we had reach now because of the internet. And to kind of disregard the people that can't come in person, I think could almost be seen as like maybe a form of like gatekeeping, where it's like, oh, you can't come in person, you can't spend the money or the time, you don't get the knowledge now, and that might not be cool to some people either. And years ago, I was moderating a career expo for a school board in Canada, and one of the professionals we had on said, "Every professional keeps learning. If you do not keep learning, you're not a professional anymore." And I've kind of like taken that with me because if you think about it, if you go see a doctor, if you're sick, you want a doctor that hasn't re-upped. What's the word I'm looking for? Hasn't worked on their skills over the past year, hasn't attended conferences or gotten their credits and stuff like that. Like, no, I'm sure you want to go to the best doctor you can go to if you can. But you have to constantly keep learning. And I think that was the curveball the last 2 years was learning tech. And that was a big one.
And this is now going into outside of the event tech space, but associations are really the biggest source of adult learning. So people should really stay engaged with their associations they are part of and really capitalize from their membership through that professional development.
Yes.
Within there. I think professional development was the term we were looking for, right?
Yes. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
So what's coming in the next few months for Event Mobi?
For Event Mobi, what's coming up? Well, we're really excited to announce, speaking of associations, we'll be at ASAE's annual meeting at the end of August, yeah. Torben, our VP of Product Marketing and Events, and I will be speaking. This will be my first time speaking at an official conference with Event Mobi, so I'm super excited about that. And when I think about what's coming in the next few months anyways, and like maybe trends I want to like look out for in events, here's what like my like future forward thinking eye wants to say is that I think moving forward, it'll be about production quality and also speaker and presentation quality. I think we're going to see a really big rise in if people know how to design really good PowerPoint presentations. That's going to be such an important skill moving forward, I think, because again, we sit through so many virtual events and webinars and talking heads that I think whether you have, if you are a speaker who's not so engaging, who maybe needs a few tips to be engaging in a virtual space, who maybe needs to revamp those PowerPoint presentations, I think we're going to see some people come out of the woodwork with those skills to try to help out these speakers. Because I don't know if you feel the same way, but sometimes if I'm watching something, they could be the most brilliant person in the world, but if my attention isn't being captured, I can't. I don't know how else to put that.
And one of the books I read within this period of standstill was where computers as theaters. And in the end of the day, we are all performers, and speakers, they are performers. They need to transition, even if it's your doctor or professor, they need to transition from just delivering pure content to actually engaging with the word, the content they are sharing, as well as with their performance. And I think you are totally right. Whether we are talking about in person or online or hybrid, it's all about more quality, more intentional, more purposeful. So totally on board with you on there, and that's definitely what we are hearing and seeing.
And then maybe, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, please go ahead. I was going to wrap
up. Okay. No, see, and then maybe in the future, there's more Event Mobi ICCA collaborations. Maybe.
Absolutely. Because I want to transition from my fun part I played, entertaining you guys, where I couldn't spell the word association, which is super embarrassing. After 25 years with Hika, yes.
Is it
off in Vegas?
Yeah.
Drink. What is your favorite food? Did I throw you a curveball there?
Oh my God. I feel like asking an Italian what their favorite food is like asking, I don't know, like a reader what their favorite book is or something. It's just so hard to like pick just one because there's so many options. Okay, but what I have been obsessed with lately, I'll answer kind of that way because I guess it is kind of a favorite. Carbonara. I love spaghetti carbonara. And where I'm staying at right now, there's also a group of Italians staying here. And last night they showed up on the patio where everyone was hanging out with a big old pot of spaghetti carbonara that they had just made and just started passing it out to everybody. And I was like, this is a dream right now. So I would say spaghetti carbonara right now. That's what
you can tell a good Italian restaurant by what kind of simple pasta dish they make, and carbonara definitely fits the bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And as you mentioned, anybody who wants to learn more about Event Mobi, please feel free to look up the eventmobi.com website. And we are confusing people because actually Event Mobi is a member registered in Germany. So within our Central European chapter, not in our North American. But you live in the US, right?
I live in Canada. Oh, frozen. Well, to answer Senya's question, I live in Canada. So Event Mobi has 2 offices, one in Toronto and then one in Germany. Let's see if she comes back. Oh, there she is. There she is. Okay, cool.
where have you lost me? At what stage
So
have you lost me?
if I lived in the US, and I said I live in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's the link to Hello America. So thank you so much, Catrina, for joining us. And I had 2 interruptions with my internet today, which is pretty embarrassing, but that's tech for you. What can we do? We are at the mercy of those internet gremlins. Anybody who wants to join me as one of the guests, like our lovely Catrina today, please email me at xenia.p@echoworld.org and join us next week. It will be again on the Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, when our guest will be Melissa Riley from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Catrina, again, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.